Hi everyone, I'm Catrin and I'm the early years worker at St Church Swansea, and today we're going to be reading a story about Joseph. So today's story is called Joseph and His Brothers. Long ago in Canaan there lived a man named Jacob. Jacob was the father of 12 sons, and of all of his sons he loved Joseph the best. Jacob gave Joseph a richly coloured coat with long sleeves, the kind that only an eldest son would wear. You see his coat, look. But Joseph was not the eldest son. He had 10 older brothers. When the older brothers saw Joseph in the special coat, they were very hurt and jealous. Joseph made things worse by telling them his dreams. His dreams showed that someday his brothers would bow down to him. Jacob's older sons took care of the sheep. You say, "Bah!" Can you be a sheep? Bah! One day, Jacob became worried when the sons had been away for a long time pasturing the sheep. He sent Joseph out to find them. The brothers could see Joseph in his colourful coat from far away. Look, can you see it? All but one brother wanted to kill him. Reuben, the eldest, persuaded the others to throw Joseph down a dry well instead. That's not very nice, is it? He was planning to rescue Joseph later. Oh, that's good. When Joseph reached his brothers, they tore off his coat and then threw him into the pit. Oh no! Reuben walked away and the other brothers sat down to eat. After a while, a long line of traders passed by on their way to Egypt. The brothers came up with a plan. Oh, they've got a plan. They would sell Joseph to the traders for silver. Then Joseph would live and they would have money. The brothers pulled Joseph out of the pit and sold him. Then they killed a goat and smeared his blood over Joseph's coat. When they brought the coat to Jacob, he wept tears. He thought Joseph had been killed by wild animals. Oh no! When the traders reached Egypt, they went to the slave market to sell Joseph to Potiphar, captain of the Pharaoh's guard. The Lord helped Joseph to work well for Potiphar. In time, Potiphar put Joseph in charge of his whole household. He was in charge of everything. All went well until Potiphar's wife blamed Joseph for something he hadn't done. Oh dear. Potiphar threw Joseph in prison. Oh no, look, he's in prison. He can't get out. Oh dear. One day he helped an important new prisoner, Pharaoh's cupbearer. Joseph explained that the cupbearer's dreams meant that Pharaoh would forgive him. 2 years later, while Joseph was still in prison, the Pharaoh had 2 troubling dreams that no one was able to explain. The cupbearer remembered how Joseph had once explained his dream. The Pharaoh sent for Joseph and told him of how he had dreamed that 7 thin cows ate 7 fat cows. Can you say moo like a cow? Say moo. He also told his dream of 7 years of withered grain eating 7 full years. God helped Joseph explain that there would be 7 years of rich harvests in Egypt, followed by 7 years in which nothing would grow. Joseph told Pharaoh to find a wise man to set aside food during the 7 years of plenty, so that in the 7 years of want there would be plenty of food for everyone. God had given Joseph great wisdom, so the Pharaoh decided to put Joseph in charge of the plan. Joseph became the chief minister of Egypt. He was only second to Pharaoh. During the next 7 years, Joseph saw that the grain was stored in huge buildings. So huge buildings. Then, during the 7 years when no crops would grow, the people of Egypt could buy grain from Joseph. In Canaan, Jacob's family needed food. Jacob sent 10 of his sons to Egypt to buy grain. He kept the youngest son, Benjamin, at home. When Joseph's 10 older brothers came to buy grain, they bowed down before him. Can you bow? They did not recognize him, but Joseph knew who they were. Joseph wanted to find out whether they were still cruel and greedy. He sent all but one home with the grain. Their money was put back in the grain sacks. Joseph kept Simeon in prison until the others returned with Benjamin. On the way back home, the brothers discovered they still had their money. When all the grain was eaten, Jacob let Benjamin go with the others to buy more grain in Egypt. They took along enough money to pay not only for the new grain, but also to pay for the grain they had already bought. Joseph sold his brothers more grain, but he had his servants put their money in the sack as before. They also put Joseph's silver cup in Benjamin's sack. Just outside the city, guards found Joseph's silver cup in Benjamin's sack. The brothers were all taken back to Joseph. They fell down to the ground and begged to be let go. Joseph agreed to let all of them go except Benjamin. At this, Judah said he would stay instead of Benjamin. Joseph now knew that his brothers had become better men. He said, "I am your brother, whom you sold into Egypt." Then Joseph forgave them. "It was not you who sent me here, it was God. He sent me here to keep many people alive." Joseph hugged Benjamin and wept. Then he kissed all of his brothers. Mwah. Pharaoh told Joseph to move his whole family from Canaan to Egypt. They were given the best grazing land there was. At first, Jacob could not believe it. But then when they arrived in Egypt, Joseph greeted his family. Joseph hugged his dad and cried. He was so happy, he cried. And that's the end. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon.